7, the forgotten gift. Everyone had focused their attention on an interesting discussion about the gifts with which heaven blesses souls on earth, when the Lord commented patiently, "There once was a man who had been showered with the gift of merit. Consequently, he received permission from the higher realms to approach the angel who was the dispenser of the divine gifts abounding in the world. The fortunate man thus asked the heavenly minister for the blessing of youth. He was granted his request, but soon he realized that youth might entail strength and beauty, but it also entails spiritual inexperience and weaknesses. No longer interested in youth, he went back to the sublime bestower and asked him for wealth. He was granted riches and enjoyed great wealth for a long time. However, he finally realized that having a lot of money provoked malignant envy in many people. Having become tired of the toilsome task of protecting his assets, he sought out the angel and asked him for freedom. He thought he was truly free. Even so, he was confronted by cruel, unseen demons that pestered him all the time, filling his mind with troubles and temptation. Exhausted due to the constant inner conflict in which he was living, he went back to the heavenly giver and asked for power. He received this new gift and clothed himself in great authority. However, he realized, sooner than he had expected, that authority degenerates hatred and rebelliousness in lazy and ignorant hearts. And tormented by the hidden daggers of indiscipline and discord, he went back to his benefactor and begged him for intelligence. Nevertheless, a man of knowledge and learning, he lost the rest of the peace that he once enjoyed. He quickly understood that it was not possible for him to sow reality in keeping with his wishes. In order not to fall prey to the destructive action of those he had benefited, he was compelled to plant a seed of truth among the 1,000 flowers of fleeting fantasy, and rather than adapting to the situation, he went back to the angel and asked him for marital bliss. Satisfied with his new purpose, he found comfort in a wonderful home and created a gracious family. But one day, death appeared and robbed him of his wife. Anguished at being a widower, he sought out the minister of health of Eternal One, and stating that once again he had made a mistake, he asked him for the gift of health. He received his gift. However, after a few years had passed, old age appeared and disfigured his body, deteriorating and wrinkling it without mercy. Tormented and unable to leave home, his angel friend came to him, and embracing him like a father, asked him what new gift he wanted from heaven. The despondent man said that there wasn't one. What more could he ask for? It was then that the glorious messenger explained that in his quest for happiness, he had forgotten about the greatest of all the gifts that can uphold a person in the world, the gift of courage. Courage produces enthusiasm and good spirits with which to carry out the work that is needed each and every day. Jesus paused for a few minutes, and then, smiling at the small group, he concluded, "Youth is beautiful, wealth is pleasing, freedom is admirable, power is brilliant, intelligence is respectable, a blissful marriage is holy, physical health is blessed. But if people do not have courage with which to deal with the good and bad things in human life, in order to learn how to stay on the pathway towards God, the temporary gifts of the transitory experience are of little use." And putting one of the children on his lap, he nodded toward the starry sky, as if to say that only in heaven will the lasting happiness of man and woman find its true home.
Thank you, João. If anybody has any comment, question, please pick up, because I'm not seeing the hands, okay? I took it out because it was bothering me. So the forgotten gift. The first thing that I noticed is that everyone in the room spoke of gifts, right? Discussion about the gifts in which heaven blesses the souls on earth. But then Jesus started telling there was once a man who had been showered with the gift of merit. It's different from just gifts, right? When you say gift, you assume that is something that you give someone else, but you don't really go about merit, about deserving or not deserving, about being good or not being. You give them a gift that you think that the person will like and will enjoy and the person will be happy with. God forbid if you would only give gifts or receive gifts even more, only based on our merits. And this, I don't know, of course, I don't really think that the author, the spiritual author in this book, use exactly every single word used by Jesus when he speaks. So I don't know if he just used the expression gift of merit. Okay? I have no idea. But the word of gift of merit is symbolic and has a meaning in all religions, in Christianity with the Catholic faith. It's the good reward, God's reward from that derives from good work that we do, especially when this work is motivated by the grace of God. I'll expand a little bit more on that, but that's what's important for us here. In Buddhism, there is the same expression, the gift of merit. And this is the receiving of positive karmic energies that is generated from virtuous actions in benefit of others. In Hinduism, there is also this expression, gift of merit. And that refers to the spiritual benefits from charitable acts. So you see that there is pretty much a universal term that, and they all mean pretty much the same thing, what we would call in spiritism law of action and reaction, right? We receive things that we merit from the work that we do to others. But there is also the gift without the gift of merit. Because again, God forbid if the divine providence would be so straight on this gift of merit and only gift us if we deserve it. And I think that all of us would agree that we kind of receive things besides our deeds. And thank God, divine providence is so generous, right? And we start with youth. I mean, as long as you pass childhood, if you were able to survive childhood, very often besides our actions, and I do think that most kids has 2 or 3 guardian angels because one is not enough, all the crazy things that we do. But if you survive childhood, if I take myself as an example, then we have youth. And that I would not say that the youth is a gift of merit, but you receive the youth. And youth is great, tremendous amount of energies and courage. There is even a stupid courage that we do things that without think of consequences. That when we mature a little bit more, we question ourselves, how How did I do that? And how did I survive that? Right? So we do something, and some things, in some instances, ignorance is bliss, because if we knew, if we had experience and reflect, perhaps we'd not do those things that end up with a good result, provide something good, even though it was not the smartest thing to do at that point, but it generated a good consequence out of it. And I think we all had experience in our lives that we can relate to. So this man who merited, right? He merited to receive an angel to fulfill his wishes, so to say. He have done whatever he has done to have the merit, the gift of merit. And he asked for oath. And again, we spoke already about it. And he soon realized that although having all that energy, have all that drive to get things done, sometimes we take all that drive without thinking well when we commit some mistakes. So although it's good, I'm gonna change to something else. Right. And then he asked for wealth. And wealth, and the other ones, most of the ones is a gift of merit. But now we spiritists, we're going to see the word merit in a different way. That we merit the wealth as a mission to go and do some good to others, or we merit the mission as a trial. We have matured enough that we deserve now the opportunity, the trial of having the wealth, and do good to others. And the difference that I'm making here is for the missions, chances are that this person is prepared and is going to do it for the good, have already acquired the moral and intellectual progress to have wealth as a mission. And for others, perhaps most of us, the wealth would be more of a trial, not necessarily an atonement, but a trial that will prepare us, if we succeed, to learn what you need to learn from this experience, and later perhaps receive the wealth as a mission. Okay, but in either way, it's a merit. We have progressed enough to be able to try this. You know, and as I always use mathematics as an example, the student merits the trial of learn trigonometry because he already conquered everything that precedes trigonometry. He already learned, simple equations of the second degree, some trigonometry, Now he's ready to move on and get another trial. He merit the trial because of the past conquests. So it's a merit, but not necessary or pleasant all the time. And this individual saw that the wealth was a little bit heavy for him at that time, and he asked for something else. He understood that with the wealth, the amount of troubles and temptations are very, very high. It's very hard to be tempted to spend a lot of money if you don't have a lot of money. It's very hard to be tempted to waste money if I have money to waste, right? And perhaps this individual did think he could deal with that. So he chose freedom. And again, he was a system that gave him freedom. And he rather understand that freedom cannot be gifted. Freedom must be conquered. and can only be conquered by purification of the sentiments, that then will produce pure thoughts, and those pure thoughts will kind of cancel, is you kind of know the kind of neutralize all the negativity that we are surrounded by, that we are continuous being tried, living the world that we live, the temptations around us, the spiritual influence is always around us. But with the purity of heart, the purity of the sentiments, we will produce elevated thoughts that will keep us in a state of freedom from all of those things. They will come, but they will not stay. They will come, but they will not torment. Because we do not create room, do not allow them to imprison us. So that's what allows, like Socrates when he was ready to, or waiting to drink the poison, and they were able to kind of corrupt the prisons for him to escape, and he refused, saying, no, I don't need to go anywhere, I'm already free. That kind of freedom is always for very few. Not many will be able to enjoy that until you purify your own hearts that generate pure thoughts, that combats, that knows all the negativity that very often we are surrounded by. But he was not able to do that. The temptation was too much for him. So again, he chose, yes, for power. And power associated something with wealth. Wealth is monetary power. And power also is a merit, and that we spirituals will see that a merit of the mission and a merit of the trial. And again, the mission is the one that the high probability of succeed, because he already carry in his or her bag all the prerequisites to succeed. And the trial is a more of a toss out. Is a more of a 50-50 if that person will be able to use properly this this gift called power. And the power, we can see power in many different ways, monetary as wealth, authority, and many different ways. Power of speech, powers of words, many, many ways that you can see these word powers over here. And they all can be a gift of merit for mission or for trial. And everything that puts us in a position of superiority or anything that will create some kind of enemies, will create some kind of competition. Somebody will have that, will want to have that power that you have. Many will be envy and will throw negativity towards you because they're envy of your power. And he didn't want to deal with that, so he chose intelligence. Intelligence I put together with freedom, that is something that we must build for ourselves. Of course, this is a parable. In this parable, he received intelligence, right? To make a point that in order to properly use intelligence and be in peace with the intelligence that we receive, we must exercise along, we have to have along with it humility and indulgence. You have to recognize that not everyone is at the same speed of you, that each one of us is moving towards the intellectual progress at our own speed. And we must lower ourselves in order to help those to reach our levels, right? We have to be like the man in Plato's cave who get out, see the light, but goes back into darkness to retrieve those who are still there and bring them to the light as well. And he was not much willing to do that. He had reached the light, so hell with those in the dark, and he want to go on. So intelligence was not really good for him yet. So we continue asking. He asked a lot, and gosh, I wish I could meet this angel. He asked for marital bliss. And together with marital bliss, or put the both together, he asked for health. But both marital bliss and health, I think, belongs to the physical world, and then die with the physical world. They go back and they go back to God, and somehow we lose those things because body dies, wife dies, husband dies, um, and the value of this marital bliss is what you build together as a more intellectual progress for both, and hopefully to the offsprings that we generate from that. And the health of and health, again, body gonna get sick, gonna die. You may live to be 125 years, but eventually that physical body is going to die. And again, the only thing that is worth of that longevity is the amount of goodness that you did during that longevity. And then he gets old. He gets old, and eventually he is tormented by his own death. And at this moment that he understands that he had all those things to ask. He asked and he received everything that he wanted. And still, he understood that his days are coming, and he's kind of questioning himself when the angel appeared to him and asked, "What else you want?" Ask me for something else now. And so what else could I ask for? I asked for those wonderful things that I received, all these wonderful things. And I'm still in this position. I did all those wonderful things did not bring to me the peace, the happiness that I wanted, that everyone wants. And the angel tells him he forgot to ask for the most important thing, which is courage. Courage to deal with all of those things. Because all of those things are wonderful, but everything has pros and cons. Everything has benefits and everything carries risks. And usually the the more wonderful those things, the greater the benefits that you can get for those things, also the greater are the risks. If we are not vigilant, if we do not have courage to deal with those things. The word courage from the Latin is in the semantic. Sorry. Cor is heart, right? So it's to act with heart. So it's to act with the purity of with the sentiments. Of course, the purity of sentiments in this case, right? Is a word that means that when we act, when we speak, to put the heart first, to put the sentiments, and of course, positive sentiments first. Then you are able to deal with all the challenges that the merit of gift, of the gift of merit brings to us. The strength, the drive of youth is wonderful. Freedom, the peace of mind, that ability to not be imprisoned by vices, by anything else is wonderful. Power, wealth, wonderful tools that can promote tremendous progress for oneself, but especially for those around us. A good companion to help us to go through the trials and the happiness of this life in this physical world is wonderful. So a blissful marriage should always be very much welcomed by everyone. Health, you may have all the good intentions to work, but if the body doesn't let you do it, it becomes very difficult to exercise it. An empty bag cannot stand. So all those things are wonderful, but it requires health. If people do not have courage with which to deal with the good and bad things in human's life in order to learn how to stay on the pathway towards God, the temporary gifts of transitory experience are of little use. Understanding this, our passage, each incarnation that we have here, in my interpretation, like just one day at school, is a great opportunity to move forward in the pathway that leads towards God, that leads towards perfection, of course. And it will provide to the gift of merit all the necessary tools for us to accomplish these goals. But you have to have courage, you have to align all those tools with the right sentiments, because the right sentiments will produce the right thoughts that will allow us to stay in that path that leads towards God. So, and for that we need courage to act with our heart. And when we act with our heart, you allow empathy to take place. You allow compassion to take place. We will be less selfish. You'll be less proudful if you put our sentiments at least at minimum allowed in alliance. In alliance with our intellectual. If you align those, chances are you're gonna use those tools properly. If you put the sentiments first, perhaps better, but I don't think that's perhaps asking a little bit too much for the majority of us. That is really limited for the Mother Teresas and Francisco Xaviers and Gandhis of this world. But at our minimum, we should try to align with courage the sentiments, our moral progress with our intellect, with our intellectual progress. Is there any comments, any questions? Yeah, I can see the hands now. No, so let's move on.
The heavenly reply, 28. When Bartholomew asked for an explanation about heaven's answers to people's prayers, Jesus responded to enlighten everyone. An old teacher of the Divine Commandments was on a mission of heavenly truth from distant village to distant village, accompanied by his dog. One night, Darkness began to fall without him having determined how many miles separated him from this next destination. Noticing that being all alone in the middle of nature was quite frightening, he prayed for protection from the Eternal Father and continued on his way. When the moonless night finally set in fully, he saw a wide and comfortable-looking hollow by the side of the path. Patting the dog that was following watchfully behind him, he decided to lie down and sleep. He was just about to settle into the hollow when a dark cloud of voracious flies attacked him all of a sudden, forcing him to continue on his way. The old man continued walking when he came to a deep creek on a stretch where the road forked. A rustic bridge offered a way across it on the main road, and just beyond it, the ground looked welcome, because although he was enveloped in nocturnal darkness, he looked like a broad white sheet. The holy preacher decided to lead his obedient companion to the other bank, but the bridge suddenly gave way, collapsed, and broke into pieces. With no other way across, the old man took the other path, and finding a healthy tree full of welcoming branches, he thought about conveniently taking shelter under it, because from the sounds of thunder in the distance, the sky was announcing a storm. The stately tree offered an alluring and safe shelter in its hollow trunk. He was ready to take up refuge there, but a gale began blowing so strongly that the tree came crashing down and split apart. Thus, exposed to the rain, the traveler continued on his way. After approximately 2 miles, he came across an old country house that appeared to have a soft light on inside, and he breathed a sigh of relief. He knocked on the door. The gruff man who answered refused him in no uncertain terms, alleging that the place did not welcome visitors in the middle of the night and that he was not allowed to take in strangers. He begged and pleaded, but the preacher was forced to continue onwards. He got as comfortable as he could beneath the storm near a small hut. Sooner, however, the dog, terrorized by incessant light, ran off yelping, becoming lost in the darkness. Now alone, the old man wept in anguish, believing that he had been forsaken by God. In the middle of the night, he heard muffled yelling and cursing, but was unable to tell where it was coming from. Curious, he waited for dawn, and after the sun began to rise in its full splendor, he left his hiding place and found out from some terrified farmers that a band of thieves had pillaged the very same house that he had been turned away from and had killed the people who lived there. A sudden spiritual light bloomed in his mind. He realized that divine godness had saved him from the evildoers, and then when the howling dog ran off, he had been assured a peaceful night's sleep. When told that he was on the path heading the opposite direction of where he wanted to go, he retraced his steps in order to get back on the right road. When he got to the broken bridge, a repairman explained to him that the white soil on the other side was nothing more than treacherous swampland, where many careless travelers had died. The old man gave thanks to the father for having saved him, and when he reached the fallen tree, a young boy told him that the seemingly welcoming tree trunk was well-known wolf's den. Very thankful to the Lord who had so miraculously helped him, he sought out the hollow where he had tried to rest. In it, he found a nest of poisonous snakes. Offering endless thanks to heaven for the different forms of help that he had been unable to understand at first, he continued onwards, safe and sound, to carry out his work. At this point of the interesting story, the master gazed a while at Bartholomew and then concluded, "The Father always hears our pleas, but we need discernment in order to understand his answers and put them to the best use."
The other day, driving home, João and I spoke about exactly what this message is all about in regard to a recent event, not nice event in New York City. The divine providence is always act in our favor, even though at the moment of the event we are unable to reason in this manner, or most of us are not able to reason in this manner. I'm gonna go back. Well, first to say, I know the teacher of divine commandments. Again, most of the examples that Jesus plays over here, it's not talking about devious individuals. It's not about evil minds in when he uses them as example. I use the average individuals and some even a little bit above average, right? Teacher of divine commandments. There at the time of Jesus would be someone above average, right? Even today, perhaps. But someone who had some learning, at least was able to read, which is by itself a great put him above everyone else, will be able to teach the divine commandments. And it was on a mission. Again, a mission to a high probability of success, right? So this guy is on a mission of spreading heavenly truth. One would expect to succeed or to have the tools for success. But if you go close to the end over here, we say that he was heading in the opposite direction of where he wanted to go. That's very meaningful. That goes together with the next passage that does with the Good Samaritan parable, right? All those things, bad things happened, but there is a genesis. Something he was going in the wrong direction. And going that wrong direction, also that was storm coming, and he asked for protection for their what would expect to be a difficult night. To continue his path, he needs shelter, he needs protection from that storm that was coming. And he asked, and he was granted in a very weird way. He received a cloud of voracious flies. And I'm thinking about it, enjoy being attacked by a cloud of mosquitoes biting you from right and left. He saw a bridge that would allow him to go to a safer, protected side, but the bridge breaks down. He was saved by the breakdown of that bridge. He was saved by a strong wind that crashed a tree down, a tree that could protect him from the environment, could be a shelter in its hollow overnight. He was protected by a nasty individual who denied him shelter out of pure selfishness, and that saved him. And it was only when the storm passed, again, at the moment of the events, we are not really able to reason and all of those things. But once it passed over, he came to the realization that all those things, well, at first one, being denied shelter by that man, nasty man, saved him from being assassinated by a group of bandits. The loudness of the assassins, the disturbance caused, drove the dog crazy. The dog ran away by running, you allow the man to actually rest and sleep at night. Otherwise, the dog will be barking and disturbing him all night, and perhaps lead the assassins to him by making so much noise. And then he understood that it was a blast that the man did not receive him. And then he came to the realization that he was going the wrong direction. So that's meaningful. He realized that he was not going in the direction of fulfilling his mission. And he received that experience to redirect him. A blessing and a prayer for guidance. He received that guidance. They redirect him to the right path. And retracing his steps, what St. Augustine suggests that we do every night, retrace his steps. See the things that I have done, how we could have done better. Evaluate your behaviors throughout the day, preparing you to do better the next day, of course, not just regurgitating on the wrong, on the negative. I'll also give a tap on the back for the goods also. But since we are here really to learn and to progress, let's look at how we could do things better and do things better. So that retrieve our steps going back. And if you do that with true sincerity, with purity of intentions, we see that many times, even when you take the wrong decisions, divine providence is there to protect us, to prevent worse things from happening. Right? So he realized that the dance guy saved him from the assassins. The wind crushed that tree, saved him from being attacked by wolves. The bridge breaking down saved him from a certain death in the swamp. And the voracious flies, not nice, but better than being attacked by poisoned snakes. So it not like kills you, but a miserable, painful death. And he came to the realization that when you take the wrong path, and I think that's the message from Jesus here, bad things will happen. If you take the wrong approach to things, should not expect good things to happen. But even in those situations when bad things happen, if we evaluate properly, we will see the divine providence that allow those not good things to happen to prevent greater harm, to prevent us to get into even deeper holes, to prevent us to accumulate even more difficult, painful karmic responsibilities. We kind of live the weight of our cross in a lighter side. And I think every one of us, I mean, I speak for myself, if I'm truly sincere, we can associate to this message. And there's many cases reported. There is, in spirit, the opportunity to experience those stories of individuals who are born paraplegic to prevent them from committing suicide again for the seventh or the eighth time. And they say, but it's not good to be, not on a wheelchair, not be able to use your hands. Well, sometimes it's a protection, and we don't know those things. Divine providence is always working in our favor, not always pleasant. being attacked by a cloud of mosquitoes, can't even imagine. It's horrible. But it's definitely better than being bitten by a poisonous snake. Is there any comments? Ebony, please.
Hi, yes. I think this story is a beautiful representation of, at least in my mind, I see it as representing someone who has lived a life of struggle on the earth, and they've discarnated, and they are having a review of their life, perhaps with the guardian angel or somebody more elevated, to kind of have them go back, retrace their steps to see where in their lives, their life, they doubted that God was there for them when they prayed, because they've been going through so much struggles that perhaps eventually they gave up in their faith, in believing that God is actually, answering prayers, or even God exists. Um, to me, that's what it represents.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only comment that I like to make is for us who've been exposed to this kind of messages to use this for our daily struggles, right? For the things that we're facing right now. To want to the suggestion of St. Augustine to retrieve our steps, like this man retrieved the steps. And by retrieve steps, you see, oh, it was not good, but it would be a lot worse if divine providence was not there for us. To have this faith with reason, not just believing for believing, but being exposed to these parables, and we can relate. I think most of us can relate that situation in our lives that we thought, why God allowed this to happen to me? And 10, 20 years later, perhaps even say, oh my goodness, thank God that thing happened to me then. Because if that did not happen to me, I would not be where I am today. Perhaps I would be lost in a much more difficult situation. This kind of faith allows us to face our struggles right now with much greater dignity and with faith. I think you said properly that unfortunately, because we are so immediatist these days, we want everything for yesterday. If you don't see the rewards of our good deeds of our work, we kind of start to distrust the the benefits of being good, of doing the right things. When we look at other people kicking the dogs right and left and being with the illusion of being happy and conquering things, if you don't have this kind of faith in God, we can redirect ourselves. I want to be like that guy. If he does everything he does that supposedly is against the divine laws, and he's so successful, that's the way I want to go as well, right? And we just accumulate tremendous amount of responsibilities that you can put tremendous amount of weight on our cross, and go back to the merit of gift. Divine providence may prevent us from putting that extra weight in our cross through those difficult trials that we face right now. That helps us to redirect our energies, to help us to retrieve our steps and go from the wrong way, as this man was doing, to get the right way so we can fulfill our missions. Any more comments and questions?
Goes back to the prayer that we always do, right? Pray for what you need, not for what you want. Because many times we don't know what we want.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
applies to this one and the previous one, right? Both passages.
Yeah, all three of them are very united together. They'll bring it, complements the other.
Yeah.
If
When
you
he
are
mentioned,
smart, if you are smart enough to pray for what we need, that's great. If you are not, and very often you are not, and pray for what you want, that's fine. But have the understanding that divine providence will provide in accordance to our needs. If we don't get what we want, perhaps because we don't need, or perhaps because we're going to do more harm than good, perhaps not ready for it yet. Go back to wealth, to go back to power. Can we really handle it? Is it very easy to criticize those who have it? If we are in their shoes, how would you use it?
I like this concept of actually asking for what you're ready for, and I kind of associated the merit much more with what you're ready for. Are you ready to receive this? Are you ready to manage wealth, power, even health, and in so many ways? Are you ready to even appreciate? So I like this angle of not what you need, not what you want, but what you're ready for.
Yeah, I agree. And that I put go back to the merit of the mission of the trial. They're both difficult, but if it's given to you, believing in divine providence being always good, is because you have what it takes. You kind of ready for it. For the trial, it's a lot harder, perhaps, right, than for the missionaries. But if you received the merit of the mission or the merit of the trial, is because you have in your bag all that is required to be successful in both in the mission and in the trial. I think in the trial we need to overcome more obstacles than in the mission, but they both offer obstacles along the way. And João was talking about was the man who attacked the building there, right, João?
Yeah, the shooter that came all the way from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He arrived late. He went to the wrong floor, and all of that avoided a much worse case scenario, right?
Yeah, and it's an example of how divine providence acts, because someone will say, what is God at that moment? What is divine providence of moment? How this guy brings a powerful killing instrument from Las Vegas to here, goes into a building that I don't know how many people would be that in that building, let's say at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And if he goes to the right building,
The right floor.
on the right floor, I mean, how more devastated that could have been. If you take into perspective the happens of 9/11, it came out kind of cheap, the amount of death and everything else in all those two buildings. Everyone will agree that would expect that event to bring a much greater death number than what it did. Not good, a tragic event, but without divine providence, it would be a whole lot worse. So the point, I think, the parable is what Jesus says, right? I mean, the calamities are necessary for all to whom the calamities come from. We live in a world of trials and expiations, so there will be trials, there will be expiations. It's part of the world that we live. But divine providence is always ready to minimize the harm, to minimize the pain. Then unfortunately it is still necessary. Any more comments? I go to the last one then.
A parable retold. After the parable of the Good Samaritan, the night at Simon's house, Thaddeus was genuinely interested in the subject and asked the master to go into greater depth about the lesson. Jesus was willing as usual and began. A new man, grimacing in pain, was lying on the ground at the gates of a large city. He was being watched by a small group of unlearned and indifferent people. A young, generous Roman sped by in his chariot and tossed 2 silver coins to the man, but a new-mannered street urchin ran off with them. Soon thereafter, a venerable scribe of the law passed by. He said that he had important matters to take care of, but he promised to send authorities to help the nameless beggar. Almost immediately, a priest came parading by. He threw the homeless traveler a gesture of blessing, and stating that the worship of the Supreme Lord awaited him, he exhorted the people to take the sick man and feed him. After him, a respectable lady suddenly came onto the scene. The poor man made a moving plea, but the noble matron, bemoaning her role as a woman, asked if there weren't any man around who might help the sick man. Minutes afterwards, a great judge came along the same stretch of public road, and alleging that he would need evidence proving that the wretch was not in fact some common fiend, he quickly left under the pretext that the opportunity did not behoove him. After a few moments more, a dealer in money bags appeared who sympathetically asserted his lack of time and gave 20 coins to a kind-looking man so that matter of assistance might be resolved. But the extempore agent was really an escaped convict who ran off with the money without rendering the aid he had promised. The sick man writhed and sweat in pain, groveling in the dust, when along came an old publican, regarded as being a lowlife because he didn't worship the Lord according to the rule of the Pharisees. To everyone's shock and amazement, he went up to the poor man, spoke a few words of encouragement and kindness to him, and helped him up. Supporting him with his own strength, he led him to a trustworthy inn, gave him the medicine he needed, and shared the small amount of money he had on him. Then he returned to his journey, continuing on his way with peace of mind. After pausing briefly, the master asked the disciple, "In your opinion, who performed a true act of charity?" "Well, of course," exclaimed Thaddeus good-naturedly. Although apparently despicable, he was the publican, because in addition to give him money and kind words, he also gave him his sentiments, his time, his arm, and his fraternal encouragement, using his own strength to do so. Jesus complacently gazed at his disciple with a penetrating look and replied, "You too should do the same. Charity through others is without a doubt both honorable and commendable. But the good that we practice directly by giving of ourselves is always the greatest and surest of all."
So we all know the Good Samaritan parable. Again, marrying with the first reading, the man who was attacked was going in the wrong direction. Again, symbolically, okay? He was going from Jerusalem down to, what's the name of the city again? I forgot the city.
Jericho.
Jericho. Yeah, down to Jericho. Okay, it's again symbolic, really symbolic. Okay, he was going from a place of sainthood, so to say, to Las Vegas, so to say, right? Sin City. He was in the wrong direction, and he was attacked, and he was injured very badly, and everybody that could pass by and help that man, they chose not to help, and it was only the Samaritan that was viewed as not worth it by the Jewish, those who were with Jesus at that time, but I was the one who took the effort to help that individual and do everything that he could. And the disciples and their families asked Jesus to expand a little bit on that message, on that parable, and just practically repeated the same parable, but now used the man who was crimson on the ground. And he was being watched by a group of unlearned and indifferent people. I think that is very significant. Unlearned and indifferent people are even less evolved, I would say over here, being nice, than all of those that Jesus mentioned in the story. Because if they were not unlearned and indifferent, they would act themselves and the story they tell would not have an opportunity to proceed, right? If those were there at the gate and saw the individual in need and they would act, then was the end of the story. And I think that these unlearned and indifferent people is the representation of the great majority. If you take over here the Roman, the priest, the judge, the rich man, the woman, none of them act what would consider true, complete charity, but at least they were not completely indifferent. They did something, not good enough, but better than the majority, because the majority were indifferent. That there is a man laying on the ground in pain, begging for help, was completely ignored. I think that is a representation of the great majority. Especially these days that all this pain is being thrown up in our face, being bombarded by the news. The great majority is completely indifferent. And some does have the good intention, but still are not able to practice the full charity. So I think the unlearned and indifferent people are very significant. It's the great majority that is totally indifferent. I'm not doing any harm. Well, we're not doing any good. And not doing good in accordance to spiritualism is doing harm. And then with the repetition of the same parable of the Good Samaritan, here we have the example of individual who passes by, having the opportunity of practicing charity, having perhaps the halfway good intention, but are not able to put others above themselves. We put tremendous value to our time, what I need to do, to our commitments, above the necessity of others. And this is pretty much the case of everyone over here, right? The young Roman tossed a coin, and moves on. This is what I can do. I have things to do. You take those coins and see what I can do with that. The scribe, the learned individual, the one man of the law, always these was as important things to take care of. So they'll delegate someone else to press the charity, send authority, someone else do it, you know. The priest is too pure to be contaminated with a stranger, you know, to touch someone else's blood, has keep oneself pure, cannot lower himself with endure himself with the sickness, with the pain of others. So he sent a prayer. Hey God, take care of him. I'm too pure. I'm too good to dirty my hands. But you can do everything. You take care of him. And don't just throw it at God's hands, forgetting that God acts through us. And then the judge has to make a judgment. I mean, are we judgment? Well, to give him money is just gonna buy more alcohol, gonna buy more drugs. So he's gonna waste his own. He's in situation because he did waste his time. Now he needs to pay for it. We're judging people instead of having empathy and compassion very often. The woman is a tough one personally for me to say. Even could the woman actually do something? But again, in regardless, she put herself first about the man. I cannot, as a role of woman, I cannot touch a man. I cannot do this. They may stone me or whatever. So this week, we spoke of love and fear. If the woman truly has love, should not have fear, and she would act with charity in that moment. But again, I mean, the woman at that time is a little bit difficult. But it's true. If you allow love, if you truly have love overtakes over our fears of punishment, right? Which the teaching of John in his epistle, and so forth and so forth, so on. Everyone had the opportunity, right? The rich man puts money in the hands of someone to take care of the case, but that someone was escaped, who convicted, who ran away with the money. This is also symbolic. There are things that we need to do ourselves. We cannot delegate. I mean, the example is Jesus Christ himself. Could have sent one of his workers to go to the cross for him? The answer is yes and no. No, yeah, the authority he had, but no, if he's the supreme master, the supreme leader, the true leader leads through example. He needs to come and do it himself. You have to go to that the word is even hard to say that for us, difficulty, but for a spirit of that magnitude, didn't deserve to do it, but done it for us. But he need to go and do it himself. Could not delegate someone else to do it. Until we find, again, the equivalent of the Samaritan would be the publican, the one that was very much hated by the community where Jesus lived, because he was the one who collected money for the enemy, right? Collected the taxes for the Romans. But that is the man who practiced charity. That is the man who put the other first. I'm sure he had business to take care of. I'm sure he had family to go to. I'm not have to go to a temple to pray for himself. But all of that lost priority to the needs of someone else. That is the true act of charity. Done it himself, did not delegate to someone, took from his own pocket, whatever it is, little or much, provide medication, put their hands on that individual without fear of being contaminated or anything else. Again, if we love, we do not fear, because love overpowers fear anytime. We don't fear the judgment, you don't fear the infections, we don't fear it because we love. And if comes to us something negative, we have the peace of conscience that we act rightly at the right time. And Jesus asked the same question he asked in the good Samaritan parable. In that case, who was the true neighbor? Who recognized the true neighbor? Who did the practice the true charity? And of course, and you over here, the old publican is the one who no one would expect, the one that was not very well considered in that society, but the one who put the neighbors above himself, who put the needs of the neighbor above his own needs, who did not fear, because again, as too much love, any kind of punishment, not fear to be late for his responsibilities, did not fear that the man perhaps was an assassin or someone who did not deserve help. He saw the individual with a need, and he provided the need in accordance with his possibilities. And suggest to us here, all of us do the same. Charity through others is without a doubt both honorable and commendable. And that's what I'm going to make the differentiation of the alert and indifferent. Because the other ones, the young Roman, the priest, the woman, the judge, the rich man, those were the charity through others, charity through others. Without a doubt is good, commendable, but not complete. But the good that we practice directly by giving of ourselves is always the greatest and surest of all, is the giving of ourselves without a fear, giving the time to that individual as that individual need, not delegating someone else to do what we can and should do ourselves. That is the true charity that Jesus comes to teach us. And that's why I say that he could not have delegated someone to carry that cross. He need to come and do it himself, because the true leaders, they lead by example. So he came and showed it to us. What does charity looks like, and expressed the love of God within us in its completely most pure form, which is charity in itself. And comments, questions? Okay, we have 10 minutes. Ron, anything to announce?
Our regular studies on Tuesdays at noon, and the book club on Wednesday are back. Next Sunday, we'll be studying the Medium's book.
Okay. Carol, can you do a prayer?
Yes, I certainly will. Thank you very much, Elmo, for hosting today. And thank you, John, for reading. We appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for being here and participating. Infinite Creator and Divine Providence, we give thanks to be together again for our studies of the book Jesus in the Home, chapters 27, 28, and 29. Topics being the forgotten gift, the heavenly reply, and a parable retold. Transitory gifts of wealth, freedom, power, intelligence, marriage, and peace of mind are often requested on our journey through life. God's rewards come through the merit of courage, good actions, and charitable deeds. During youth, we often receive gifts of grace, energy, and spontaneous success, quite surprisingly. However, importantly, true merit can occur through a trial or mission in which an individual soul learns successfully from the unfolding experiences and lessons, which moves us toward a positive spiritual evolution. In difficult situations, may divine providence prevent greater harm, struggles, and difficulties as we realign with faith, dignity, and greater goodness, to redirect our actions, pray for what is needed and what we are ready to receive. Be generous and charitable also, to uplift our sentiments as the Master Jesus would recommend. We give thanks to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us today. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us. For our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we go forth and remind ourselves now to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.